Mac, this is it. We are finally here. We've covered all the animated content for The Mandalorian, and now we are here, starting with the first chapter of The Mandalorian in our Mandalorian Rewatch. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the Mandalorian Rewatch underway for some time now. We've done Clone Wars, we've done Rebels, but to a certain degree, this kind of feels like the real first official episode of the Rewatch. You know, getting into the actual show that started it all in terms of our podcast, and is also, of course, the main jumping off point for the film The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is what we're preparing for and talking about and speculating about and everything like that. But it felt like a coming home, like a homecoming to some degree, to be turning on these episodes to get ready to discuss with you, Alex.
It really did. Like when I was watching the first episode, like I just felt all the warm fuzzies in terms of like, man, this just feels so right for us. I mean, obviously, it's our name. It was our former name, The Mandalorian Watch. And, it's been, 6 years?
6 years.
6 years since we have done a breakdown on this. It was our very first thing that we did was a breakdown of The Mandalorian. And now we're back, like you said, preparing for The Mandalorian and Grogu with brand new scene-by-scene breakdowns. And it just felt good watching these. Andor is incredible, maybe the best of Star Wars, but this is my favorite. This is my favorite. I just feels like a warm blanket. I just feel good, man. It just feels good.
For sure. It was a blast to turn on chapter 1. And it really impressed upon me just how good the show looks and how much care and attention to detail was taken in bringing Star Wars to the small screen for the first time in a live action format. And, it's just, I'm so impressed again with the first, the debut episode of The Mandalorian. And I can't wait to get into it in detail with you. But you are listening to Children of the Watch. I'm Mac Lacey.
And I'm Alex Maxwell, and today we are officially starting The Mandalorian Rewatch. To prepare for the next Star Wars movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, we are rewatching every single episode of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. Yeah. So if you're new to our podcast, we break down every single episode of Star Wars television, scene by scene, to analyze the story, find comb for Easter eggs, and explain how it all connects to the larger Star Wars universe. And we're so excited, like we talked about, to do it again for The Mandalorian. And with the context of everything that we've seen, right? We've seen it all now, and now we can put the pieces together. There's a lot of things that I feel like I noticed on this watch of like, oh, that makes a lot more sense now, having seen season 3 of The Mandalorian. Exactly. So there's a lot of connections that I think we can make. There's even a huge connection in this episode, Mac, that I feel like is going to impact the movie in a major, major way. So that's called a tease.
Yeah. Let's not spoil it. We'll get there in the discussion for sure. But we also wanted to do something a little bit different for for the Mandalorian Rewatch so far. It's not different from what we normally do, because when a show's coming out, when we're doing full coverage of a new show coming out, we do voicemail hotline episodes. Yep. It's one of our favorite things to hear from you guys, to hear your thoughts, your theories, your speculations, get your reactions to all the incredible things that happened in the episode and stuff like that. And that's one thing that we've been missing on the podcast. So we actually have been receiving some voicemail submissions and stuff like that, and we wanted to show one on this episode of the podcast. So
I guess
Alex,
it's time.
Do you have that voicemail?
It's ready to go, so we're going to listen to it, and then we're going to respond, and then you guys can call in, just like our listener just did, Katie from Deerfield. She called in. You guys could make it on the podcast too. And so we'll play a voicemail for the episode. If you call in, you got a great theory or an idea or a connection or whatever, that number is 205-259-6675. I just lost it. I just said it.
205-259-6675.
It's been a day. Thank you.
But yeah,
205. Yep.
that voicemail box is open. Leave your thoughts, your calls, and you could end up on the show like Katie.
All right, let's do it.
Hey guys, this is Katie from Deerfield Beach. I have a theory that just kind of came to my mind, or maybe not necessarily a theory, but more so what's headcanon to me. When you guys were talking about Sabine and Kanan and Ezra all training, and I was thinking, what if, now stay with me here, while Kanan was doing all of his meditation kind of around this time, and keep in mind that by the time of his death, he kind of meditated and had sort of a force vision, if you will, about what he needed to do and his role in, you know, the greater picture of things. He kind of already knew what was coming for him, even though everybody else didn't. What if, at this time, he also kind of had a force vision of Sabine kind of being like the second coming of Tar Vizsla, meaning she is kind of like the new coming of a Jedi Mandalorian. So he kind of was pushing for her to train with the Darksaber, what have you, because in my head I'm like, okay, well, close proximity, sure, but why are they pushing for Sabine kind of sort of randomly to train with the Darksaber if they previously don't really have any knowledge of her being strong in the Force? So I'm wondering if maybe we think there's a possibility that we could get some kind of flashback to around that time of maybe Kanan and Hera having like a side conversation of him being like, I know she's strong in the Force, we need to start preparing her because she's going to be kind of like the second coming of Tar Vizsla. My second theory is wondering if the reason that we see in the prequel movies that the Jedi Council is so against having a child of a certain age being taken into the order is because of Tar Vizsla. Because if we think about it, if he's already trained as a Mandalorian, he's got to be of a certain age, say 10, 11. So maybe, you know, the Jedi Council was like, well, we saw what happened with Tar Vizsla and that didn't go according to plan. So now, from now on, we can't possibly have anybody older than, let's say, like 4 or 5 or even younger. So looking forward to hearing what you guys think. Hope you guys have a great day and keep the watch.
Let's go. Katie from Deerfield. Killed it.
Yeah, some really interesting thoughts there. I'm actually going to start on Katie's second thought first. I think it's easier to address. I love the idea that Tar Vizsla almost created the precedent of children starting training in the Jedi Order really young.
Me too.
They saw what happened with Tar and they was like, we don't want anybody to be of two worlds anymore. We want people to be solely raised in the tenets of the Jedi and not have that baggage of their home world, their home culture to contend with. I really like the idea that like when Mace Windu is looking at a young Anakin Skywalker already, 8, 9 years old, he's remembering the stories he learned of Tar Vizsla and what had happened there, and he's using that to kind of guide him, and he's taking that story as a warning, and so that's it stuff like that makes what happens on screen and it enriches it and adds context and historical nuance and stuff to the world. I love I love that thought.
I do too. I absolutely adore that thought because of course it would be like a Mandalorian that maybe like would prompt that role of like, maybe it is a bad idea. I don't
Of course.
But then like to her first point, that's the point that I just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible because I think that actually could happen like in Ahsoka season 2 or something where it's like Hera mentions to Sabine like Kanan actually foresaw this for you.
Yeah.
And like we had that conversation last week with Sabine and the Darksaber. There's really only 2 candidates to be the kind of next Tar Vizsla in terms of Mandalorian Jedi. That's Grogu and Sabine.
Yeah.
Right. And so I kind of lean more towards Sabine maybe taking that role. And if they reforge the Darksaber at some point, maybe taking up the mantle of Tar Vizsla. I mean, she is a descendant of Tar Vizsla. Like Clan Wren is an offshoot of Vizsla. Yeah,
Clan Wren is in House Vizsla. I think is how that's organized.
Yeah.
They go back and forth on it sometimes between Clan and House. It gets murky, but I think like House Vizsla is the larger faction, and then the clans from there, like Clan Wren.
Right.
But yeah, I love that thought. It even means that we could potentially get some kind of flashback material with Freddie Prinze Jr. in Ahsoka
imagine?
season 2, I think would be really fun.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
Yeah, but lots of great thoughts there.
Yeah.
Wanted to get that on the show. Thank you so much for your call. And again, if listeners, if you have thoughts and theories and speculations, stuff like that on what we're talking about, maybe on this episode, give us a call at 205-259-6675, and you can maybe hear your thoughts on the show.
Yep. All right. So I think it's time to jump into the breakdown. What do you say, Matt?
Let's do it, Alex.
So the original air date for this episode was November 12th, 2019.
What a time. What a
How
time.
does that make you feel?
That's wow. It was in the time of innocence. It was the holiday season leading up into the release of The Rise of Skywalker.
Yep.
That was coming out in December, so like a month and a half from the release of this episode.
Yeah.
And then what a different world 2019 was.
Pre-COVID, man.
It was before the dark times, before the Empire.
Yeah.
The 2020 change of it all. Good nostalgia, cozy feelings thinking back to 2019.
I do want to ask you before we go any further. Do you remember watching this episode specifically when it came out on that day? Because I have a very vivid memory of watching this.
Yeah, it was with the debut of the entire Disney Plus service. It was Disney Plus turned on. I can't actually remember. Was it nighttime or morning?
It was morning, 6 a.m. They didn't do the 3 a.m. thing, but it was early, 6 a.m.
We woke up and watched stuff before going to work, or we may have taken work off that day. I had a snow day. I'm a teacher, so it was it was a half day. It was kind of sleeting or whatever, early November. But I swear it was so I could do this, so I could at least watch The Mandalorian before I went to work. And so I got to watch it before going, and I remember just thinking the whole time when it was on, I was I am so glad we chose to do this podcast, because it was kind of a gamble. We started this podcast before the show actually came out. We were just really excited about it and wanted to do an after show for the very first Star Wars TV show. And we were just hoping the quality was going to be there.
And it was.
So made good on every promise there. Just what a day.
It was awesome.
Yeah. But watching this again kind of put me back in that mindset. It's what a debut for any television show, but also just a new era of Star Wars, Star Wars live action television. There was a lot riding on this particular episode, I feel like, and it delivers in spades.
It's just so good. Everything about it was incredible. Honestly, in my opinion, it's one of the best debut episodes of any TV show.
Yeah.
I know I'm biased in that, but I think in terms of hitting the tone of what it is, I think this episode does such a good job at that.
Yeah. Just to compare it to, Andor, I feel like it's an easy comparison, because these are the two shows that are kind of up there in the canon for us, and we've Andor's recent as well. We've got recency bias and stuff towards it. I feel like Andor is maybe a more consistently high quality show overall. Yeah. But I would say that The Mandalorian came out swinging way stronger with its debut episode.
100%.
That you really need those first 3 full episodes of Andor to get hooked, to see what the show's going to be, to get to know the world and everything. Yeah. Whereas this, within 20 minutes, you're in. You know what it is. You know the adventure we're on. You're invested. To back up your point, I think it's one of the strongest pilot episodes, so to speak, of Star Wars TV so far.
Oh, for sure. So the director is Dave Filoni, his first outing as a live action director. Obviously he came from an animated background. And then the writer was Jon Favreau, who is the showrunner, along with Dave Filoni. And it takes place 9 ABY. So that's after the Battle of Yavin. So 6 years after Return of the Jedi. Now that is really important in a way because one of the very first old EU things to come out was the Thrawn trilogy, which also took place this exact same year. So I feel like that was very intentional of like, okay, it's far away enough from Return of the Jedi, but still close enough to where like you're still feeling the impacts of what happened in the original trilogy.
Right. This show doesn't have to change any of the events that happen with, the formation of the New Republic or anything they have going on. That stuff's all happening independently. It's in motion already. It's like you said, far enough removed that it's not stepping on any of those toes. But I think it's also close enough to the original trilogy that there's all these immediate visual things that place it in time, and it's close enough that it's an understandable context for the galaxy too.
100%. 100%. All right, let's do it. Let's do this. Let's get into it. Our episode begins with the sound of a beeping tracking fob, and we open up on Mando, the Mandalorian, holding it, and we are on the planet Pagodon, which we didn't get the name in the episode, but now we do know that's the name.
Yep.
And inside a bar, a bearded human and a Quarren are roughing up a Mithril man who is offering up credits to save his own life, and the bearded man wants to kill the Mithril for his valuable musk. But before any further damage can be done, the masked and mysterious Mandalorian enters the bar, and what an entrance from our guy Din.
Yeah, for sure. This opening scene just establishing all of the like Wild West gunslinger tropes that we're going to be calling on. That's fully evidenced in this first scene. Just with like this is a saloon. Might as well be some people arguing over a poker game, and then the sheriff walks in. It's a very like familiar context in narrative while being a pretty new and fresh and specifically Star Wars environment.
Yeah, and I also feel like obviously as The Mandalorian goes on, it gets a little away from this, right? By the end of season 3, he's liberating an entire planet.
Right.
I think by the end of season 3, though, we're coming back to this. So I think like the movie is going to feel a lot like this first episode does.
I agree. I think this season is actually going to be more representative for what to expect in the movie than anything else.
I agree.
I think because I just with the narrative threads and stuff they have to play with and what I expect to be, handled in other shows and stuff like that, doesn't seem like it's going to be quite the same scale and scope of season 3. I almost don't see how you could do that.
Yeah.
I think, I expect it to be back to the basics of, we're in Star Wars. It's the Wild West. We have a gunslinger, and then his young charge, his young ward.
Yeah, and I think that's just easier for a general audience to kind of absorb. Like, I get this. So at the bar, speaking in Huttese, the bearded man tells Din that he spilled his drink. Din ignores this and silently walks up to the counter. Again, the bearded man threatens Din, and the bartender tells Din that he spilled his drink in Basic, just in case he didn't understand. And the Mithril uses this moment to break free, but the Quarren holds him down. And the two thugs then become interested in Din's Beskar armor, and though the bartender attempts to defuse everything, a fight ensues. Din makes pretty quick work of these guys after shoving the bearded man's teeth up his skull. He ends up cutting the Quarren in half with the door, which I think this, again, kind of tells you who Din is from the get-go of, he's just like what you imagine Boba Fett to be.
Right. Right. This is like Han Solo in A New Hope, the guy who's just shooting people in cold blood in the cantina. That's who we're dealing with. This is not a hero yet.
Right.
He's formidable. You can see that he's methodical. He works by, some principles and a code and stuff like that. But he is not above some brutality. He's not, I don't think he's considering the feelings of the people in this saloon as he's operating.
No, I don't think he cares. I don't get that sense, Mac. I don't think he cares about that.
kind of right off the bat, we get some attention drawn to the armor, to Beskar, to like that's from this first scene that's brought up. It's woven into the narrative, and I think that's fitting for how important Beskar armor is to Mandalorians, culturally.
That's a really good point. Like almost one of the very first things said in the show is about his Beskar armor, kind of, again, giving that little bit of lore to an audience who might not be as familiar with Mandalorians as like you and I might be.
Right.
I think that's a really smart decision of like, that's what this is called, and it's really precious to the Mandalorians. Like, because that's what makes the fight happen, is it's not like them getting on his nerves, it's the fact that they are interested in his Beskar and they're like trying to cut it and see if it's real. He didn't like that.
Right. It's kind of right off the bat, the armor's making him a target in a way that he's specifically trying to avoid right now. With being underground in the covert and everything like that. Yeah. I also think that the Beskar reference up top is indication to hardcore fans who had been fans of Mandalorian stories and all of the Legends material and the all the stories with Mandalorians and the lore of that had already kind of been established. I think this is also an immediate indication that the show's paying attention to that, because Beskar was like a sort of deep cut right at the top. So I think it's indication like, hey, we're paying attention to everything that's been established. It's you'll like have patience. I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah,
it works on both levels, and I think that's really cool. It's really cool that it does that. But the Nevarro tries to buy Din a drink after the fight, but then Din shows him the hologram, and then we get his famous first line: "I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold." And just what an opening! Like we talked about, I think this really kind of just shows from the get-go in this cold open, this is what the show is. This is what you can expect from The Mandalorian. And I was hooked from here on out. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so in.
For sure. And that opening line, just, I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold. What better way can you kind of sum up his methodical nature? Like, he's not taking any pleasure in killing or anything.
Yeah,
He'd rather bring anybody in warm. It's less trouble for him. But he's not afraid to,
He'll kill you.
Like, that's not going to stand in the way of him completing his goal.
Yeah, and that's just such a different character from someone like Luke Skywalker, right? Which we just got finished with the original trilogy in the timeline of it, So it's like, he is not Luke Skywalker, and I think that's pretty evident. We'll definitely talk about that in episode 2 when he's just murking those Jawas. But man,
just making sentient beings not exist anymore.
Just disintegration left and right. So incredible opening, and then we get the title credits. We don't have a chapter title in the title credits, but we do now know it's called The Mandalorian. It's just called The Mandalorian. That's what it is. So Din escorts him back to the ship, and they stop at the Kubaz ferryman. And I just want to say, what a magical guy, Mac.
Yeah.
Right? Look at this guy. Don't you wish you could summon Ubers with a little flute?
Yeah,
of course. How cool would that be?
It's way better than using the rectangle that's attached to my pocket.
It's
a lot of touches like this where, we did just have Din cut someone in half with a door.
Yes.
But we've got this,
I
think right off the bat, they're going, there could be a darker tone at times. We're going to be taking this very seriously. It's going to be a very serious story that's presented, but there's plenty of room for whimsy, for the wonder of a fantastical world that we love about Star Wars. So again, like right off the bat, they're establishing that tonally too. Like there's going to be action. There's going to be serious drama. There's also going to be some jokes. There's going to be some just fun, weird little stuff. And all of those things I appreciate.
And I think this was such a really good touch because it felt like such a George Lucas thing to have a speeder summoned by a flute that rides on the wind. Like, who would have thought of that? Yeah. But it just feels very Star Wars. And so the Kubaz ferryman summons a speeder, but it's driven by a droid. And we get the first indication of Din's character in this moment where the droid comes up. It's an astromech land speeder, and Din refuses. He does not want to get in the speeder with the droid driving. And so that's a little indicator to us the very first time of like, okay, he doesn't like droids. Why is that?
Yeah. And much like Din, I also refuse to take Waymo cabs.
In San Francisco, they're everywhere. They freaked me out.
Scary. I don't love it. We've got them in Atlanta now.
Do you?
Yeah, I saw one the other day. I don't like it. I will be emulating Din in that humans only driving me. Thank you.
You're playing a different note on the flute. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Go to the next one. Yeah. They refuse that one, and then we get that one guy that is in a lot of things, and he is driving the land speeder.
Is his name David Lee? Is that what
I
his
think
name
so.
is? He's in literally every sitcom that's ever been.
Yes, he's the guy. But I love that his land speeder is like worse than the droids. It's like barely working. It's popping off. There's smoke coming out of the back. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
choice.
it's good.
Did you find his name? Were you looking for his name? I think it's.
I was looking for
right.
his name, and I am not finding it.
Okay. Well, apologies to him. He comes and he takes them to their ship, but the driver has to scan the horizon for Ravanax. And they arrive at the Razor Crest, and Din forces him out of the land speeder, and the Nevarro is nervous, wondering if they should be worried.
Yeah.
As Din gets inside the ship, we see the speeder is devoured by Ravanax from beneath the ice. And RIP to this guy, he was just doing his job.
And
He's just driving, and then all of a sudden a huge ice walrus comes up and eats him.
Also, like, how many times has he done this route and survived? and we just happen to be watching with the time that he doesn't make it, right? Because like this is his job.
He does this every
day in, day out. So like,
yeah, and not only that, this is probably his second job. He's just trying to make ends meet. This is, it's an industry where droids are taking over, and he's one of the last sentient beings to do it, and now,
yeah.
He's gone, and it's starting to make sense now why they're having droids do this.
Yep. Oh, no, that guy's Brian Posen.
That's exactly what you said earlier.
Yeah, that's the same name. Totally.
We can edit this.
I won't, but
we can, though.
Apologies to that man. And
we do our research on here.
We do. The funny thing is, I've been in this position every single time we've tried to talk about this episode, and we just refuse to learn this man's name. This is maybe the third attempt I've made to like actually be able to credit.
I'm so sorry.
Guy.
What's his name?
It is Brian Posen.
Sorry, Brian.
Sorry to this man. Okay.
Anyways, he dies. Very unfortunately, just right away, driving away. He's dead. And then Nevarro panics as the Ravanax is now coming for them. And Din pulls him to safety just in time, and the Ravanax throws itself against the hull, and they can't take off because it latched itself onto the Razor Crest. Then Din has to go inside and get his rifle, and then he comes back outside and stings the creature with electricity before they fly away. I just got to say, I really miss his rifle.
I do too. So for anybody who doesn't know, it's a reference to Boba Fett's first ever appearance, which was actually in the Star Wars Holiday Special in an animated segment.
You can watch that on Disney Plus, by the way.
Yeah. He's got like a rifle that's shaped like this with the forked end and everything. So it's a reference to the Mandalorian aesthetics, origins in that regard. But it's also it's a cool weapon for him to have, and he doesn't have that. That's part of the gunslinger thing, right? They can do the 6 shooters, the quick draw with the pistols and stuff like that. But then you've also got to have the long gun element of it.
Yeah, and I love this gun. This gun's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it does a lot. I love that we've got kaiju involved with the Mandalorian in the first episode, because that will be a recurring theme. There's a lot of
Jon Favreau really likes large monsters, doesn't he?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, me too.
Who doesn't?
Like it's hard to complain about too much.
If this is your first time listening to the podcast, hello. But also, to kind of get to know us a little bit, one of our dreams as podcasters is to die by Godzilla in some way. You know, like if Godzilla were to emerge out of the ocean, Mac and I are getting in the car and driving straight towards it.
Yes, for sure.
Right?
Ideally, we are open arms receiving the atomic breath
blast
just straight to the dome. That's like ultimately the ideal scenario. I'll also take
being stomped on.
I'm in an office building, and and his tail swipes through the entire building. That'll also work for me. But like something like that. That's the vibe.
Yeah.
If we're just gonna pick our ideal death, I think
that's the one.
Godzilla's pretty high up there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, we like
can
giant
start a
monsters.
cult about this.
We probably could. We probably could. We probably actually could. I've been told I would be a great cult leader.
I think we'd be awesome. We'd be benevolent cult leaders is the thing.
You would.
That's what every cult leader says before they become not a benevolent cult leader.
So anyway, they fly away from the giant walrus monster. And as they enter space, the Mythrol tries to make small talk, but Din isn't responding at all. He also asks some questions for the audience, too, I think. He's asking if it's true Mandalorians don't take off their helmets. Yeah. And Din doesn't respond. But that was really to kind of indicate to the audience, like, hey, this is something that happens in the galaxy where Mandalorians are now known for not taking off their helmets. Like, people don't recognize a Mandalorian if they're not wearing their helmet, you know?
Right. And like that's a shift from what we've known. Like if you watch the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan and Anakin would laugh in your face if you told them that Mandalorians never take their helmets off. They're like, really? I know like all kinds of Mandalorians, what their faces look like and that kind of thing.
Right.
So, you know, it was kind of our first indication that like, hold on now, there's something else afoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So again, I think that's actually like smart writing on their part. I know that sometimes The Mandalorian, especially in later seasons, can be criticized for some of the writing, but here I think it's really, really strong. But I also think it's not weighed down by like layers and layers and layers of story, right? Like it's just kind of fresh, and it's not meant to be something this huge, almost Skywalker connected thing at this point. So I think that it's also free of that burden, and that's why it's really good. So the Mythrol's trying to make small talk, getting nothing out of Din. And then he says that he needs to use the vac tube. And so he just kind of gets up and he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to go walk around and see if I can find it. He needs to evacuate his thorax. I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound good.
Yep. It's not anything that I want to be present for, I think.
And he says that. Yeah. He pretty much says, you don't want to be in here. And so he's talking all this time while Din allows him to wander around the Razor Crest right up until he finds all the other bounties frozen in carbonite.
Yeah.
And that was such a cool first reveal of like, oh, like that's smart for like bounty hunters to have like a little mini carbonite thing in their cargo hold. That's really cool.
Yeah, it would have had to been a technology that was developed fairly recently in terms of like making a carbonite freezing station that could fit on a ship, right? Because I mean, people being frozen in carbonite was still a shaky science in the time of The Empire Strikes Back. Darth Vader's
he was testing it out.
Yeah, the reason he did Han first was so that he could eventually ship Luke that way,
right.
But he wanted to make sure that Luke would survive.
Right.
But yeah, so like new technology, I guess it's come a long way in the last few years, but it makes total sense for a bounty hunter. I mean, you can just kind of hop around collecting your bounties and only have to come back into the guild master like one time. You just unload everything. It also just establishes Din as kind of a scary dude.
Yes.
Like this, like he is a horror monster to his quarries sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
And especially in like episode 6, we'll see a lot more of that kind of stuff happening again. Exactly, the Batman of it all.
Yeah.
But him popping out of nowhere and spooking you, and again, it just establishes him as a different kind of hero, a different kind of protagonist for Star Wars.
I was going to do a whole Batman thing, but never mind. We got to continue. I was about to lose it a little bit. So you see like all the horrified expressions of the bounties in Carbonite, and he's looking through it like almost like a catalog of like, oh my gosh. And then he basically says, no life day for me. And Din agrees and shoves him into the freezing chamber. And then we cut to the Razor Crest making its way to Nevarro. And this is a huge planet in The Mandalorian. I kind of expect us to see Nevarro in the movie. But when they land at the spaceport, it is not the way that we see it by the end of season 3. We see this planet go through major change in evolution throughout the series. And I think it's in like an indicator of like even where Din is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think the planet kind of almost represents where Din is personally, and where we see it right now, it is a seedy place. You don't want to come here.
Yeah, it's not a community, really.
Yeah.
It's a hostile place where, you're up against the city as much as you're up against anything else if you live there, I think.
Yes.
But and as like you said, as time goes on, and as Din kind of grows and is able to let more people in and kind of forms that found family that he ends up with, the town does blossom and become more community minded. You see people helping each other more, and so that's a good observation that it is reflective of kind of where Din's at in his personal journey.
It's one of my favorite things about the show is just to see not only the change in character, but the change in environment too. And I think that's just really cool to see in Star Wars of like when the good guys become good, so does nature in a weird way. Like nature returns to itself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm probably reading way too deep into that, but it's what we do.
That's what we do.
He lands at the spaceport. He walks throughout the streets, and it's a much seedier vibe than later season. And he enters the cantina, and I love this scene when he enters the cantina. Obviously, very much supposed to evoke A New Hope when Luke and Obi-Wan go into the cantina, but I love how everyone is kind of noticing Din when he walks in too. That's one of my favorite aspects of like the Mandalorian stands out among the bounty hunters.
Yeah. Either by reputation personally, or that, just by nature of being a Mandalorian, that brings a certain reputation.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I like what you said. It is a kind of a parallel to the Mos Eisley Cantina scene, but it's different. There's not the happy music playing. People are much more like looking over their shoulders already. Everybody's more on edge. Nobody's really just hanging out and relaxing in here.
Yeah, so he enters the cantina and meets with Greef Karga, played by the great late Carl Weathers.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Man, I miss him, and we're gonna really miss him in the movie too.
He's gonna be such his absence is gonna be noted, I think, in the movie, because he's such a wonderful part of this show. He embodies the spirit not only through the character of Greef, but also like he's gotten to direct and put his own. Bring his experience as an actor and as a filmmaker to everybody else. I think he's been a kind of a shepherd spiritually for the production in a lot of ways. So I think he's definitely going to be missed in the movie.
Yeah. So when we meet him here, he is kind of like Nevarro, very rough around the edges, not a good person. He's an agent for the Bounty Hunters Guild. And Karga is going to pay an Imperial credits, but Din refuses, noting that the Empire doesn't exist anymore. Again, another indicator to the audience of like, okay, this is after the original movies. They defeated the Empire. So
both Death Stars done blew up.
They're gone. Greef Karga then offers calamari flan, which looks disgusting. I don't want to. It's
the wettest money I've ever heard hit a table.
Which, I mean, it makes sense. It's calamari, so... Yeah.
I think they're like scallops. I think they grow them. Like the mint is like a big oyster bed. This is just my behind the scenes thoughts on the production of calamari flan, but
yeah. I like that. No, I like that. So The problem is he can only pay half of calamari flan, but reluctantly Din agrees to take it. Karga then informs him of several bail jumps and a wanted smuggler. Din takes them all, but warns that Karga warns that there's other bounty hunters. Like, hey, people might not like you, like taking all of these, and you're actually getting them. So like, you're not allowing other bounty hunters to do what they need to do. Yep. And so he's trying to like kind of like, maybe you need to leave some for some people. And then Din asks who is the highest bounty. It's like, okay, then I'll just go for the highest one. And then Greef goes into an explanation that, hey, I've got something that's off the books and there's no chain code. And this is the first indicator of chain codes, which later get explained in the Bad Batch of like how those came to be.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about chain codes a little bit more in a minute when we talk about the asset and the child and Grogu and stuff. But Din accepts the offer and then travels through the back streets of Nevarro and arrives at a door and a gatekeeper droid. He's led in and taken to a room where he is greeted by some roughed up stormtroopers.
Yeah, these stormtroopers look like how the stormtroopers in Aftermath are described in the final Aftermath book. At the climactic Battle of Jakku, Rey Sloane is kind of looking down over the state of the Empire and looking at these stormtroopers who are beaten down and dirty and have almost gone like feral in a way. Yeah. They're not representative of the efficient, clean machine that the Empire was. And these stormtroopers are absolutely representative of that later day Empire. So I like that continuity there.
Yeah, I do too. I think it gives like a sense of desperation to the stormtrooper. Like, okay, so the Empire still exists, but they're desperate, right? Like it's almost flipped now. Like they're like the rebellion was, like we see in Andor, right? Like it's very much flipped there. And then we get to meet Werner Herzog's character, only known as the Client.
So good. Werner Herzog brings something to this production that is just amazing. It's like, it's not only like pedigree for his influence and stuff in the filmmaking world being involved, but it's he just can play a character like nobody else.
He can. He's really interesting guy. Like the way he delivers his lines is almost like Christopher Walken-esque of like nobody else really says lines like that, but he does.
He's got a cadence that's all his own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of like number one, great on them to get him to be in this and be a bad guy, but also who do we think in universe this guy is, Mac? Like what is his deal?
That's a fantastic question. We don't really have, much indication. To me, I think there's a few possibilities. One that's very likely is that he was either like a high-ranking ISB agent or some other higher military officer who, in the state of the Empire now, has almost kind of gone rogue and become a warlord, because like he's adopted this very specific kind of dress that's not very imperial. He's got like a big imperial medallion and stuff, and like
which you can buy at Galaxy's Edge, by the way.
Yeah. So I think this could just be a high-ranking imperial official, like in the military machine, who has adopted a more warlord personality. Maybe he's one of the people who Gideon is kind of associating or working with.
Okay, so that's I would like to hone in there because I think there's some indicator. We'll get to this when we wrap up this episode. There's some indicator of like maybe power play between the Client and Gideon.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of an indication there of like maybe the Client thinks that he should be in charge, but I think right now he is under Gideon. Obviously, Gideon being a Moff at this time, but I think the Client was making a power move to maybe take over at some point. And I'll tell you why when we get to the end, but I think that's what's happening here.
Yeah. He could also be a former Imperial senator or something like that who was actually able to remain in the Imperial organization after the Senate was dissolved, maybe as like an advisor to somebody. Or he just kind of has that air about him,
He does.
But yeah, I think whatever the case for his origins, I agree with you. There's like he's in cahoots with Gideon right now, but there's power struggles going on.
Absolutely. So as the client is saying how Din is the best in the guild, he's talking him up and saying, "We're so glad that you're here." The door opens and it spooks Din, and in arrives Dr. Penn Pershing. This guy, low-key, maybe one of the most important characters from the series.
Depending on where they go with
on what he does, right? Like because possibly he's the creator of Snoke.
Right. Possibly it's a huge deal, and plays into the saga films in a massive way. But then, depending on how that all shakes up, he could also just be a shadowy scientist doing weird stuff in secret,
Yeah. I mean, that's totally possible. But I mean, they gave the guy a whole episode in season 3.
Right.
So it makes me feel like, maybe
they've got intentions for him.
Yeah, I think so. So there's like this standoff that happens. Everyone has their blasters on each other. It's like that scene from The Office of like nobody's ready to put their guns down. They're just all pointing at one another, and the stormtroopers are like, "We can take you," and like Din's like, "Oh yeah, let's go." The client has to.
1. I like those odds.
Right.
Yeah, he's establishing him as this extremely proficient, if maybe a little arrogant gunslinger.
Right. But after the client calms everyone down, they sit. And then the client begins to unwrap Beskar and tells Din it's a down payment. He has even more where that came from, which I assume was taken during the Night of 1,000 Tears, right? Yep. Like, and the armor later kind of hints at that. And then he says the line, "Bounty hunting can be a difficult profession."
He's very French there. Bounty hunting can be a very difficult profession.
That was really good.
It's more...
I played Lumiere in high school for Beauty and the Beast. So that's just my natural. It's my natural inclination is go French. It was a mistake. Adds that termination can be provided for a lower fee, and Dr. Pershing tries to disagree but is overruled by the client. And then the client can only provide a tracking fob. Din asks for the chain code but only receives the last 4 digits, and the asset is 50 years old. So the last 4 digits of the chain code lets everyone know the age. Yeah. And so we're thinking as an audience like, oh, this is not a child. This is an old man that he's hunting, right?
I was almost thinking they were indicating someone specifically like from the prequels that we may have known.
Yeah.
Like I think that watching this the first time, I think I was thinking, okay, 50 years. That means they could have been, right in kind of big player age in the prequels, in the 15 to 25 range.
Yeah.
Depending
a Jedi
on where we saw them. So that's kind of where my head was at. But that's not where we go.
That's not where we go. So the client reminds him that the Beskar is rightfully his, and it's good to restore the natural order after a period of chaos. Basically, he's asking like, hey, I know things have been rough for your people, and you would love to get the Mandalorians back to where they should be. So you're like cool with fascism, right? Like, we're cool.
That seems
we're good here.
As long as you're willing to admit that the Empire is the natural order. As long as you're cool with that, then let's see what we can do for your people. Yeah, which, as we know, is not actually helpful to Mandalorians at all.
No, not at all. So Din leaves the meeting, and he's going to do it, but he passes a Kowakian monkey lizard being roasted over a spit while the others watch despondently. I think, funny enough, this is also another indicator of how Nevarro is doing.
Yeah.
Because later in season 3, we see all these Kowakian monkey lizards helping the Mandalorians. There's bad guys that they're pointing out.
Stopped eating them. They're not being sold in the markets and stuff anymore.
Yeah. So he being Din enters a flight of stairs leading into an underground hall. And something that's consistent with the tribe specifically is that they hide underground wherever they are.
Yeah.
And we've kind of talked about this on the podcast before, but I think that's just to indicate like almost like a spiritual, like spiritually they're close to the minds.
Yeah.
In a way of like the minds of Mandalore, they want to be close to the source of where the Beskar comes from, even though that's not Mandalore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a symbolic thing more than anything. It is a practical, like they're trying to stay under the radar. Being literally underground is helpful in that aim.
Yeah.
But even, we see when they're on a space station and stuff later, it's they still find ways to just go underneath whatever they can.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I would suspect there is almost a spiritual tenet behind that.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I think that's really cool. But I also remember seeing this scene and when he goes down there and he starts passing the other Mandalorians and the music that's playing, I was just oh my gosh, what do we do? Like, I was just thinking it was just going to be him. I did not expect there to be so many other Mandalorians and then to see the culture, like there's kids with Mandalorian helmets running around and everyone's helmeted. And then he gets to the big Mythosaur skull right above the forge. And then he goes in and you see the armor working on Beskar armor. It was just, this is so good. Yeah. What is this? I did not expect this when we first saw it.
Yeah. I have not been able to find a better way to sum it up than kind of the way I did in the first time through, which is the mytholization.
I know what you're trying to say.
Re-mythologizing Star Wars. It's making you're taking stuff out of that like more hard sci-fi environment, and you're introducing those fantasy elements that make Star Wars special and stand out from other, galactic spanning sci-fi properties. It's reintroducing those fantasy aspects even to the Mandalorians. We've talked about how there's, of the three big factions in Star Wars, there's the Jedi, there's the Sith, as far as, who's making big plays that have cosmological significance. More and more, the Mandalorians are kind of the third faction in that. Especially with all the new additions we've gotten in the Mandoverse and everything. And I think that starts here with this scene.
Absolutely.
It's just, there's something so primal and visceral about it that, it tells you exactly what this culture is all about.
It's so cool. It's so cool. So when he gets to the forge, he sits down before the armorer and he presents her with the calamari flan and then the Beskar bar. And the armorer confirms that the Beskar was melted down during the Great Purge of Mandalore.
Introducing that whole concept.
Right. Which we didn't know at the time.
Exactly.
Which was insane.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I love this show. So she can make a pauldron out of that and then ask if his signet has been revealed, which is also kind of a new lore thing of like, okay, have you proven yourself worthy of a signet yet? And he's honest and he says, no, but then she's like, it's coming. It's, like she kind of encourages him like, you're good. It's going to reveal itself soon.
Yeah.
And it does. So yeah, the armorer gets to work as Din watches like the goodest boy. He's just sitting there watching her as she's just making that pauldron, and the armorer
he's almost as in wonder and awe as we are.
Yes, he's like, this is so cool. The armorer mentions that the Beskar will sponsor many foundlings, and Din mentions that he was once a foundling. And it's funny now, like it wasn't funny when we first saw it, but now that we know everything, the armorer is like, yes, I know.
I
know who you are.
Yeah. It's like Din is in this like hyper reverent mode, and so he's like, he's speaking. He's like, I was once a foundling, and he's like letting the significance of that wash over him in this moment and stuff.
Right.
But the armorer's not in that moment with him. She's like, we
know Din.
I was there. Like,
it's one of my favorite things. Yeah, so as he mentions that, we get our first hint of his past through the flashbacks, and then he receives his new metal pauldron, which we see this in episode 2. Like, there's the like blinking lights on his undersuit that like, it kind of attached. I thought that was such a cool addition. Like, we'd never seen that before. I thought that was really cool.
It explains a lot about how the Beskar armor can redirect blaster fire and stuff. Like,
yes.
So there's almost electrical components that absorb that energy and stuff.
Yep. So then Din flies the Razor Crest to the desert world of Arvala 7, and after setting down, he sees some blurgs on the horizon and then is ambushed by them out of nowhere. Very much like A New Hope when Luke is looking out through the binoculars and then the Tusken Raiders attack him, right?
Yep. Big Tatooine references, big A New Hope callbacks for sure.
Yeah. But then he's saved when a tranquilizer dart hits his attacker and the second one charging him. And then we're introduced to a mounted Ugnaught named Kuill, and Din thanks him and recognizes him as a bounty hunter. And Kuill says he's going to help him. And then he ends it with, "I have spoken."
Yeah.
Can we just talk about how like sorely missed this character is in The Mandalorian?
Yes. If this is your first watch through for The Mandalorian, spoilers.
Sorry.
So sorry for some stuff that's coming up. But we'll just say Quill's not around after a certain point. And yeah, I feel that absence, honestly. There's sort of a spiritual advisor role that, you know, the armorer plays, but she has more importance in the actual narrative of of Din's arc and stuff.
Yeah.
She's at times even more of an antagonist and things like that. But as far as just like that, the character that's just there to provide some solid old world wisdom, you know, that's Kuill. Playing off of the trope of like the indigenous American guide for cowboys and stuff in a lot of Western movies. It's kind of playing off that tradition. I miss Kuill.
There's just something about it. Like I love Nick Nolte's performance of him.
Yep.
I like the way he delivers the lines. I think it's just fantastic. It just like, I believe he's real. Kind of like I believed Yoda was real.
Yeah. Oh,
you know?
no, that was Nick Nolte. They put him in prosthetics and made him really short for The Mandalorian.
It's just magic, man. It's just what they do is incredible. But yeah, later Kuill explains that many have come seeking the same asset, but they've all died seeking the asset. Din is hesitant to get his help at first, but Kuill says that he can show the way to the encampment. Din asks what his cut will be, and Kuill, that little freak, just wants those blurgs, man. Just give me those blurgs. I don't want your money. I just want your blurgs.
Bipedal reptilian steeds.
Give me your blurgs. I want your blurgs.
I'm not even going to go there with you. You've got that. You've got that. All the real estate on that bit.
I don't know if I want that. Insist that Din will need to keep one to get to the encampment. Like, I want your blurg, but you need one blurg. So he won't change his mind on this because he has spoken.
Of course.
Then the next day, Din just absolutely embarrasses himself. I swear it would be like me trying to set up a tent on a hike, like by myself without any help. No instructions, just kind of like, I know how to do this. I absolutely know how to do. I am very manly man. And just embarrassing myself. But Quill's like, hey, I know what your problem is. You can't see anything. Number one, you need to take off your helmet. But Din can't take off his helmet because of the code. He mentions that. So again, another little lore piece that he drops right there. Another indicator of like, this is different than what we've seen in animated content before. And then Kuill explains that the male is in heat during mating. And they basically get eaten by the females, and so you got to be careful with them. And Din just can't get it together, and he finally asks if they have a speeder bike or a land speeder, and then Kuill just totally guilt trips him here. Says your ancestors rode the great mythosaurs, like just like, and you can't ride this blurg? Are you kidding me?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
I love that Kuill is holding him to the legends of his people too, like the legendary reputation of his people. He's like, no, you're a Mandalorian. What do you mean? If you're going to be a Mandalorian, you have to do stuff like this. That's what Mandalorians do.
Do you think that this is a promise that he will ride a mythosaur one day?
I think it's certainly foreshadowing. And we have a mythosaur. Again, spoilers for The Mandalorian. There's a mythosaur that it's Chekhov's mythosaur.
Yes. Yes.
It's there. It exists. We've had our attention brought to it. It hasn't completed its journey yet, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. So then this time he tries the old petting technique. What works every time. Works on me too. Once he's mastered it, off they go. What I do like about this is that very much like the Darksaber, like once he calms down and like masters the control, he's got it.
Yeah.
I think that's like a huge thing, especially with Din, of like, calm down, you got it. And then once he's calm, he can move forward. But like, Katie from the Discord pointed out that like, yes, I think that Mandalorians specifically like have a connection to like animals and nature. Like once they can master the control of themselves, they can control that. Yeah. And I think we see that here very obviously. And then I think you're totally right. It's Chekhov's mythosaur. I think we're going to see it again, just on a much bigger scale and
a bigger screen.
This time it's going to be Quill's brother Mill, who encourages him to ride it.
Is it like Thrawn's cousin Ron?
Exactly.
Great.
It's exactly. And so they go, and I distinctly remember this part of them riding the blurgs and the music and everything when they're hopping over the little crevices and stuff. I just love it. It looks kind of goofy, but in a really cool, fun way.
In a Star Wars way. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Like things can look goofy. That doesn't mean they're not like
serious,
like grounded.
Yeah.
Because the blurgs are, they look ridiculous. But like if you had never seen a horse before, that's a pretty funny looking thing, So,
look at that horse.
Like, what is
that? What is that?
Huh. What's that tall dog over there? Like,
You're right. Don't get me off on that. Okay. All right, so they arrive and Din tries paying him, but Kuill says that he will be doing him a service of ridding the mercenaries and crooks from this area. And so my question is like, how long have they been on Arvala 7 and causing this problem? So keep that in mind, because we're coming back to this. Yeah. And then Kuill says that while he's never met a Mandalorian, he's only read the stories. And if the stories he's heard are true, there's going to be peace. So he basically says, that's enough. You can pay me with peace. And then he leaves. Din approaches and scans the site with his scope from his rifle and spots several armed figures, and then an IG assassin droid approaching, which is a character called IG-11.
Yep.
As he approaches, he demands that they hand over the asset under paragraph 16 of the Bondsman Guild Protocol. Before the Nikto henchmen can reach for their blasters, IG-11 guns them down, and the remaining gunmen hide behind a blast door as IG-11 repeats his demands. Din approaches from behind and manages to convince him that they will split the bounty.
Yeah.
Then the armed gunmen attack from the rooftops, and as the firefight starts to get out of control, IG-11 starts to activate his self-destruct mechanism, and I get it, honestly. Like, anytime something gets super hard, it's like, you know what? Never mind. This was a mistake.
Pull the old ejector seat there.
Yeah.
I love IG-11. Taika Waititi brings a particular comedic quality through his vocal performance and stuff.
It's so good.
Do you know if there's a reason why they didn't just have IG-88? Do you think it needed to be a new droid?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, somebody can call in about that. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's because of what Din does at the end of this episode. I don't know. Maybe that's why, but that is interesting.
Yeah.
So Where were we? Din then talks him out of it as they're pinned down, and some of the mercs bring out a hovering laser cannon, and as soon as IG-11 sees that, he's about to self-destruct again. And honestly, I kind of wish that they would play on that bit like more with him throughout the series. Like make him this super anxious droid, but not like C-3PO, but more like a millennial. Of like just like I say this as a millennial. Just like I can't do this. Never mind. This is a bad idea.
Well, it's like presenting like being forced to present like you have everything under control and that you are completely up to the task until it's abundantly clear that you're not, and then just I think that's really the difference, because C-3PO would never claim to be brave or a hero or anything like that, and he never acts like it. IG here puts on a big front of like, I'm handling the mission, I am the Terminator, and then the moment he faces a little adversity, it's like, well, I'm ending it
out.
So,
I just kind of wish they would play on that bit a little bit more with him. I think that would be funny.
That is a pretty millennial struggle, I think.
So after convincing IG-11 it's going to be okay, he asks him to essentially get himself killed in a different way, and IG-11's cool with that. Like he's like, all right, sweet. So he draws their fire while Din goes to take the laser cannon, and he jumps on and takes out the remaining bad guys in a really cool way. He's, spinning it around. Pew, 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 pew.
Real action hero moment.
Yeah. And while he clearly hates droids, Din respects IG-11's fighting skills. And then they cut out a piece of bread out of the door. Like, that's I can't help think of like, that's just a loaf of bread every time I see that.
They made a piece of toast.
And so then they approach the silver pram, and they find a little baby inside, and it's little baby Yoda, a.k.a. Grogu. Remember, we didn't know his name at this point.
Nope.
It was just the child, and then the moniker
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
People were calling him Small Moses. There's all kinds of things like that. This was a wild moment. I think this moment too, and in ending the episode and the debut of The Mandalorian with this scene.
That's such a hook.
Yeah, it was like, okay, they're going to be taking way bigger swings with this show than I thought, and it's going to matter to the overall Star Wars canon, the overall narrative, a lot more than I thought. And also just like, I thought I had such a clear view of what the show was going to be based on the episode up until this point. And then you see this and you're like, I have no clue where this show could go.
Yep.
And I think that's beautiful. I think that's a wonderful way to end it.
They kept it such a secret. Like there was no indication really that this was going to be a thing at the end. And like, this is actually what the show is about. Yeah. There was no indication of that before this came out. We just thought it was going to be about a Mandalorian bounty hunter. We had no idea that one of Yoda's species, which is kind of a big deal. Like, there's only 3 of them. There's Yoda, Yaddle, and Grogu. That's it.
I think really Yaddle, I think they kind of wish they hadn't included Yaddle. I think Lucasfilm, after George Lucas, has been doing everything they can to get away from the character of Yaddle. Because I think they'd really like it to be more mysterious. I think Yaddle takes some of the mystery out of what they would like Yoda's species to be. But
yeah, I would agree. Because she also, like, she doesn't speak like Yoda does.
Just making it to where there's another character that just happens to be that species but doesn't play a huge role, and it is really a side character and populating a room like any Rodian or Twi'lek in a cantina, it cheapens it a little bit. I think.
Does a little bit.
Not to be down on the character of Yaddle. If anything, I wish we had more of Yaddle.
Yeah.
But
and it also makes people think, like, what did Yoda and Yaddle do?
It's impossible not to think of that when Baby Grogu
they're the only two.
Right. So,
and here's a baby.
So I do think Lucasfilm wishes Yaddle just didn't exist. And I think for all intents and purposes, she doesn't. But
yeah. Well, anyway, here's Baby Yoda. And, okay, so here's something that was never answered. IG-11 says that he was sent to kill Grogu. Why?
Yeah, I think it's what you indicated earlier with the client.
Power struggle.
I think it's power struggles because clearly Gideon is involved. Like with what we learn later in the show, Gideon's heavily involved with cloning, with the science wing of the Empire, with Pershing and stuff. I almost feel like Pershing is Gideon's representative to the client, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like not like the client has also hired Pershing and is at Gideon's level. I think Pershing is there as Gideon's liaison, if anything else, even though he's also instrumental to the program.
Yes.
So I think probably wanting the client or wanting the child dead would be counter to what Gideon wants, and therefore it could be like a power thing that Werner Herzog's doing.
I think that's the only thing that makes any sense in this scenario. Yeah. And another thing I wanted to talk about are what are these mercenaries doing there and who are they there for? They're speaking Huttese, number one. Okay. Typically, I don't like to say, well, all Niktos are like this, but they work for the Hutts. Okay. Mm-hmm. We know that Jabba the Hutt's son, played by Jeremy Allen White, is going to be in The Mandalorian and Grogu. So also, we know that in every season of The Mandalorian, we get some added aspect of where Grogu actually came from. We learn a little bit more about him. The movie is called The Mandalorian and Grogu. Yeah. I'm expecting us to get a little something on Grogu's backstory, maybe even picking up where we left off in season 3 with him leaving with Keller and Beck. Yeah. Okay, so how did he get from Keller and Beck to here, number one? How do tracking fobs work? They would have to have like DNA.
At least, right? Like,
I mean, so like at some point between Keller and Beck and these mercenaries, I think he might have been in Mount Tantus with the Empire for a little bit. Like we see that in the Bad Batch. I think he might have been there for a moment, maybe somehow got out. Right. And then the Hutts got him, and like kind of held him, and maybe we're going to sell him for some sort of price on the black market. I think that's where we might be. And I think we might get an indicator of like maybe Jabba had something to do with it. And then Jeremy Allen White's character, his son, would know about that.
Yeah, I think Jabba intended Grogu to be a playmate and then later like pet type character for Rhoda.
Actually, that's probably accurate.
Rhoda, as a lot of children do, showed no interest towards the pet and didn't take care of Grogu and stuff. So Jabba put Grogu in the like doggy daycare of Arbala 7. I would like to make a serious observation. I think the tracking fob probably is connected to the pram, not anything biologically on Grogu.
Okay, but that actually makes sense. But the other tracking fob, like the very first thing in The Mandalorian, is the tracking fob going off.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like how did? Yeah,
it has to be DNA. It has to be something biological, because if it's just like magically beeping when you get close to it, how does that happen?
I don't know. Well, we'll figure it out. Maybe they'll give us a piece of exposition that'll explain how the tracking fobs work.
It will probably be in the like the book that comes out next year before the movie, where it's like what are those called, where like it explains everything. One of those books by Pablo Hidalgo. But anyway,
the visual guides.
Thank you. That's what they're called. Yeah, so IG-11 raises his blaster to kill Grogu, and Din saves him, and we get that iconic shot to close the episode of them kind of touching their fingers close to each other. E.T.
It's almost like the Sistine Chapel a little bit.
Actually, yeah. Okay, I said E.T.
Because I think that's what E.T.
a real piece of art.
More. I think E.T. is also referencing the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
You just looked. Right. You just spiked the camera like Jim from The Office. Like that was the first time we'd made eye contact this entire recording through the screen.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, cool. What a debut episode for The Mandalorian. What a way to get it kicked off. I mean, I loved being able to examine this debut with the knowledge of everything that comes after, and us being able to add the context and to see everything that is called back to later, even that's established right here. Amazing performances, amazing moments. It's cool to be a Star Wars fan. I think The Mandalorian's a fun show.
It's so incredible. And we want you to be on this journey with us every single week. Next week, we're going to be doing Chapter 2, The Child. We're going to be breaking it down scene by scene. And it's going to be so much fun. I know I had a ton of fun on this episode. And then as we get into this, we will have special guests with us to help us break down these episodes. These first few we're going to kind of do solo, but as we get further into the seasons and stuff, you're going to be seeing some familiar faces on the podcast, so it's going to be a ton of fun. And then, of course, we want you guys to call in like Katie from Deerfield did, so do it. Call in. Yeah. What do you think is going on? Maybe you can explain tracking fobs to us.
For sure.
That would be super helpful.
If you want to call in, you can call 205-259-6675, and you may hear your thoughts on the podcast. If you like what we do, give us a 5-star review and rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen. You can follow us on, all the social stuff. Check out our YouTube. We are going to be back on YouTube for the breakdowns now that we're in the Mandalorian portion of the Mandalorian Rewatch. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to keep it rolling with Chapter 2 next week. If you want a little bit more of what we do while you're waiting, you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/MandalorianWatch. For just $2, you get access to all kinds of bonus content. There's access to Discord. Lots of cool stuff over there. So check that out if you want more from us. But we'll be back next week with Chapter 2 of The Mandalorian. Until then, keep the watch.